Welcome back. In this episode, I sit with Christi Christian. She is a marketer, a brand builder, and a type of person that can walk into any restaurant and instantly spot what's missing. Christi has an amazing story. She helped grow Urbane Cafe from 4 to over 20 plus stores and now works with really cool brands like Dink and Dine, who I recently had on the show. Christi possesses this rare mix of creative vision, which I really love, and the operational know-how. In this episode, we talk about what makes a brand stand out, why hot cookies matter, and how great hospitality is the best marketing out there. I hope you enjoy. Christi, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, it is my pleasure. I'm really excited for this conversation. You know, we got a chance to talk maybe about a week ago about your story and the work that you're doing now. I think that from my conversation with some people on your team, I think that you guys have a lot of experience helping out brands, scaling brands especially, and you yourself have done almost every role in a growing company. And now you're starting a new venture. So I'm just super stoked to have this conversation. I always like to ask my guests about themselves, and I'll give you the stage here for a minute or two. Just tell us, like, how did you get to where you are today? What were some of the first roles that you held, and maybe along the way, some of the people you worked with?
Well, one of the most exciting role, we'll go to that one.
Let's do it.
Was with, in the beginning stages, was with Urbane Cafe. So as I said, I got to do a lot of roles because it was a newer brand back then. I think I started when it was number 4. And so I remember sitting there with the owner, Tom Holt, and it's like, wait, what are you doing? Why are you looking at those financials so deeply? And so then I got into seeing how managers were able to change things on the point of sale system. I'm like, wait, that shouldn't happen. So I got involved with the whole point of sale system, and we ended up switching that over into Brink. And so got all techie on that. And then setting up the stores with their POS systems and all of that. And they started calling me the IT girl. But I'm like, wait, no, I'm marketing. But as we were growing, my hands just were in everything as far as like working. We transferred over into Cisco and working on all of that. And just every role, even just the operations in the stores I started getting into, and then the catering and the marketing and all of that, until we got so large that it became like, okay, wait, you have to focus on something.
Right.
For us to go to that next level. So once it got to be like 20 stores, for me, I felt like I had taken the brand as far as I could take it. It was pretty much in its launching phase to start basically cookie cuttering in a sense. We're up to 38 stores now. They just opened their 38th one. My daughter still works there. So still very much a family to me. It's in my heart. But at that point, I was ready to kind of grow, and I love touching other brands and switching to another. So I have barbecue clients and burger clients and ramen and I don't know, Italian, you name it, just all the different types, and Ding and Dine. So, which is a great example of how marketing just crosses, and it doesn't necessarily have to be food. Oh, I forgot cookies and
you do it all.
Yeah. But I love that. And my day is so exciting because I might start with one brand and flip over to another, and each hour could be different. I love taking a brand, looking at it and seeing that aesthetically it could be better, and that how it transcends the 4 walls, that you have to also look at your digital landscape, everything, and all those touch points where a guest is going to come and see your brand has to match. And so visually, one of the first things I love to do is when I see a brand, it's like, oh my gosh, we need to get better photos. We need to get the website. We need to get your SEO up. We need to get your Google ads. We need to, just everything. And there's so much. And that happens whether it's food or other things as well.
I love it. I was at this restaurant the other day, or last night actually, and I used to know the previous owners of that same location, and they, switch ownership, and now it's a new restaurant. And I went inside. They just opened 2 months ago, and I have this similar to you. Maybe it's a curse, but whenever I walk into a restaurant that I know needs some work, I
turn it off.
I analyze everything. I'll start asking them like, "What POS do you guys use?" Or I noticed.
Like, oh.
Yeah, they don't even know. And I look at the lighting, and for about 20 minutes in that dinner with my friend, we were talking about what can we do if we were the operators to make it a better experience? And there's this almost like this like tug and pull. I think early on, and maybe you can help me understand this better. Early on when you're working with a brand, I think most of the focus goes into like just delivering good food, good quality food, and making a presence for yourself. And then there comes a point where you do, with investments, you do have to start looking at other channels, right? Like you mentioned SEO. That's one of those things that a lot of restaurant owners just maybe are too scared to even touch themselves. So at what point do you like to step in and you feel like you can add the most value? Is it with a brand that's, one or two locations, or is it a brand that's starting to franchise and develop? Like, where do you see yourself kind of loving to play?
That's a great question, Daniel. And we have both. And I love, I've had restaurants like this one, Mangiano. It's an Italian restaurant, and it opened in Salina, Texas, which is a brand new growing town, which not a lot around it. It's like this old fashioned, and they took over a gas station. So they had nothing. And it's the father and the son are the primary ones. And they were in the hotel like renovation business. So like if a large hotel needed to be renovated, that's what they did. So they had all the experience to come in and take this gas station and turn it into an amazing Italian restaurant. And then they brought in cool. Yeah, then they brought in a consulting company to come in and develop the restaurant, the recipes and all of that. And so for me, I got to come in, there was nothing. They didn't have a brand. They didn't have they had a story, but they didn't have it written. There's nothing going through it. So I got to put my hands in all of that. And I just want to go back, because when somebody's opening, one of the main things that they overlook, they think of all the things that they have to do, and they think, oh, we don't need marketing. That's just going to happen.
Right. What do you think that is? What do you think that is? And I would love to continue here, but I'd love to know why. What's the psychology around?
Two things. I think that the money all gets spent on what they think is important, and they think marketing is a fluff. They think that's an extra. And sometimes they find out a really hard way that they should have done marketing. There's an Italian restaurant. I don't like to really work where I play now. So I try not to have ones at home because of what you just said, how you go in and it's like constantly, I like to shut my brain off somewhere. But there was one in downtown Ventura, and it's an Italian restaurant that opened before COVID, and it was killing me because they opened correctly. They gave out like free samples and this and that. The food was amazing. The vibe, the look, everything great. And then I just was watching like, they're blowing it, they're blowing it, they're blowing it, they're blowing it. And I had so many ideas. And then it turned out my neighbor is the landlord for it. So she told them about me. They were like, oh, we don't really have the money right now. We don't really have the money right now. You walk by there and it's my husband and our biggest joke. Look, there's two people. Oh no, that's the chef sitting down. And it's not because of the food. It's not because of the vibe. It's lacking one thing. It's lacking something special that is going to draw people in. And that's what I like to do, is come in and help you understand. Let's figure out something special that's going to attract people. Or like another example, one of the calls this morning was with Mickey's. So he's got nuts down in the farmer's market, and he also has Mickey's Kitchen, where he does handcrafted meats and amazing. And one of the things I was trying to help him understand was we need something special. And I don't want to give away what I gave him, but I told him, go into the Grove. Let's develop this. Let's go into the Grove. This is what kind of marketing is like. When I say go into the Grove, when people are hungry, I can't give everything away. But,
you have to pay top dollar for that.
But the idea is, I want to, be respectful of him too, and the idea I gave him, and blah, blah, blah. But the idea is I look at like marketing as not only just like your traditional marketing. I always like to think outside the box and where are the people and what do they need, and what people group can we hit that is going to tell everybody else. So you kind of find a group of people that are going to then spread the word for you. Right. So I guess
evangelists.
That hard, but create something that then tells people, they let the people do the marketing for you. And I think that is so key. And I think a lot of times people, like back to your question, they think, oh, we don't need marketing, because they think of just traditional marketing. They don't think of what makes us unique, what makes us special, and how do we let the world know about it. Then even if you're doing well, because there are brands that do well, but then I look at it like, okay, well, let's do better. Let's get more customers.
Let's grow.
Maybe you could franchise down the road. Maybe you could duplicate this concept, even if it's just 2 or 3 locations and you want to hold on to them. So it's just like creating something special and sharing it with the world. And that's what I love to do. And I love also building and giving back. To me, that is so important. And it's brands, sometimes they see it as like, oh, that's all the marketing we need. But that's not what it's about. It's about just, it's like, don't tell your kids to just be good people to be good people. Tell them to be good, tell them to go help that person. Tell them to go be nice and help that one because they need it, and keep the focus on that and don't worry about what that does for you. But I love how kids can do that for others.
I think that's, you brought up a really, as you were talking, I was just thinking, I went to a store opening on Thursday, this past Thursday, and it seems like they did everything right. They brought people in, they did a giveaway, they brought the news, they did the whole ribbon cutting ceremony. They put a lot of money into the grand opening. But the key is marketing is something that's always ongoing. You can't just do a big push and hope that you can capture that lightning in a bottle. You have to always be trying something new. Like you said, build a loyal fan base that it's like a positive flywheel. They just keep telling more and more and more. And those people tell more people. And so you're constantly bringing new customers and you have a very strong, loyal fan base. So if we had to use Urbane Cafe as one of your case studies, what was, you talk about having something unique beyond just food, something that brings people back. What was that for Urbane Cafe?
Well, there's a lot of things for Urbane, but the thing that just stuck out in my mind, so we'll just take the one.
Let's do that.
Okay. I'm a proclaimed cookie snob. So what that means is I don't want that cookie unless it's hot and fresh out of the oven. So when I was a customer of Urbane way back in the day when my kids were young, and they would have these big giant cookies. And kids would want a cookie. And I was like, I'm not going to give you like this big giant cookie, right? And it looks old and, wrapped in saran wrap. So when I started there, my thing was like, wait, we need to get like smaller cookies, first of all, so that they'll buy them for their kids. And then, so we were working and I realized they got them from a local bakery. And then we had a slow store, San Luis Obispo store. And they asked me if I could pick up the cookies and take them up there. And I did. And then they're marking the dates on the back. I'm like, wait, why are we marking the dates? Oh, because we don't keep them longer than 3 days. I'm like, oh, plain cookie snob in me just became a little like, oh, you. What I thought was like, what if we had hot, fresh cookies at Urbane Cafe and little ones? Because who doesn't want like a hot, fresh cookie after they've eaten? And like, that's really hard to resist. And then to me, like the kids you bring are going to determine where you go half the time. And if you have hot, fresh cookies, they're getting at the end, they're going to always want to go to Urbane. So got a little resistance in the beginning, but then I worked with Cisco for one of the marketing openings and we passed out hot, fresh cookies and then made the cookies that were remaining left and convinced him to actually let that location, the Northridge, I think it was location number 8, sell these hot, fresh cookies. And then they came up with the idea of getting a heating pad thing to put them on. So the cookies are on the heating stone. And so now you can go to Urbane Cafe anytime and get a hot, fresh cookie. And
that's very smart.
Their sales like quadrupled on cookie sales. And then of course it brought more sales and more sales.
Absolutely.
But now every single store beyond that test store that he let me play with has hot, fresh cookies now.
Amazing. Congrats. Yeah, absolutely. It's something unique about Urbane Cafe that you don't really see with other restaurants. So I see your point now. It needs to be something special. It needs to be something unique. It can't be, no pun intended, it cannot be cookie cutter. It needs to be something that makes the brand, it needs to make the brand stand out and show that they care about the quality. They care about putting out a good product.
Can I just add this one other thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when people think of marketing, like I said, they just think of that outward thing. One of the biggest things of marketing and near and dear to my heart is hospitality. Because I don't care how good the food is. I don't care how good those cookies are. I don't care how bad you crave that food every single day. If you go in and they are rude to you and they could care less that you walk through that door, they do not make you feel special, you don't want to go back. So to me, that was like the heart of marketing. And there's a difference between service and hospitality. To me, service are the things that you train somebody to do, the day in, day out tasks. And And hospitality is who you are and how you make people feel. So you take that as a brand. Who are you as a brand? And how do you make people feel? So to me, that is the highest arch of marketing.
Right. And to understand that, do you work with operators and founders through like an exercise to explore that? What is the process of figuring that out?
So that is one of the offerings that we do love to offer. Unfortunately, not very many brands these days take you up on that because they're in a rush and in a hurry. But we do offer that, the hospitality training and the ongoing. And it starts with the top, because the top, and that's one of the beautiful things about Dink and Dine, because we just had this conversation. That's one of the things I'm going to be putting together as a whole orientation plan, because I've been going through the orientation with some new team members. And so now we're going to put it in a presentation for them. But that is, it's like you, as the top team members, they have to learn it first. So I just had a meeting with two of the top brand new chefs being hired for Dine, and I went through all of that, and they have to get it, because if you don't treat your team well, they're not going to treat your guests well. They can't. They don't feel good. And it's like, if you just got yelled at behind the scenes and then you come up front to go help the guests, it's a fake, phony smile. They're going to feel that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you had to think of I want something actionable here for some of the operators that are thinking about improving their marketing. If you had to advise an operator on some of the basics that they should at least have down for their restaurant, what would it be? Would it be like SEO? Would it be having a social media page? Like the basics, what needs to be there? And if it's not there, you would go crazy.
Well, the basics in this world, because we are such a digital world, and because people are always looking at you on Instagram or Facebook or a website or Google or somewhere, the first thing is some great pictures, which I work with a photographer and he always gets the first call. Because to me, if you don't have great pictures, then, and it can be as simple as, like, we work with the cookie concept. I'm like, okay, those are good pictures, but they're not great pictures. They don't make me want to grab that cookie and eat it. There's brands, they'll say, oh, well, we have good pictures. And this is what kills me, when they're like, my brother-in-law has a camera and he takes great pictures. Or my sister's a photographer. She's going to come in and take pictures.
Right.
Food photography is so different than regular. And there was a burger concept we had to kind of go through this with. We're like, oh yeah, we could take some pictures here and there, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you see how your bun looks dirty? You see how, there's just, a food photographer knows how to do the right lighting so it doesn't cast shadows in the right way. So getting the right photography, and then I usually love to just go in and just create graphics and the website and all those fun things.
Yeah.
But you gotta
good logo.
Yes, a good logo. But I've dealt with an okay logo, and you can get around an okay logo, but yeah.
Interesting. I'm also seeing that this kind of takes us away from the small restaurants. Good example, like Burger King recently did a logo rebrand, or just actually an entire rebrand of its mission, its vision, its approach to customer service, its logo, its fonts. And I was just thinking in my head, how much did that cost for them? That must have been a tremendous expenditure to revamp themselves.
Yeah, it's worth it. They needed that. They needed that. They were getting old and tired and passed up, and yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think about that rebrand? Because from the people I talked to, I think their first reaction was, I don't really know. I think people are a little bit resistant to change at the beginning, but to me, it also seems as nostalgic.
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm not, which tells me they didn't do a good enough job in the rebrand, but the idea was right. But I don't think it's a good, impactful one. I'm trying to think of one that did it that was good. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you don't, and that would be the thing. Like, okay, so McGee's, I'll go back to them. So he's like, oh, should I change my logo? I'm like, no, you've been around since 1917. You do not change that logo. But we created a whole nut line for him, and he didn't have packaging. So I respected the history of it. I wish I could show you what it looks like now. What if you go on mcgeesnuts.com? You can see it. Okay. So if you're listening to this podcast, it's worth it, because the packaging, we designed that from scratch. But we did a whole nod, kept his logo, but did a whole nod to the history. So there's like cylinders that the nuts go in, and I did all the timeline of McGee's on the cylinders. And then I took the picture that he gave me of his great-grandparents that started it in 1917.
That's pretty cool.
The old nut, I don't even know what you call it. It's like a mill or something. And I faded it in the background around the cylinder.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
But that to me is like, you respect a brand that's been around for a while and you find a way to bring it into modern today, something that people will love. And you don't have to take it into like the Jetsons.
Yeah, I love this conversation because I can already tell that our minds, while we are very similar, we also talked about some of our uncanny similarities, martial arts and growing up in Los Angeles. We have a lot of similarities. Where our minds differ is you are such a creative. All the things that you're bringing up, it would never come to my mind that it's I can see the value in it, but I would never actually dream of these concepts. But for you, this is where you get your creativity. You just this is where you get your flow. Let me ask you, have you had a hard time working with certain operators, people that just, they know they need a change, but they're just so resistant to this experimentation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's all sorts of people, and you work gently with them, and I'm patient with them, and then I help them. And I also look at, okay, what is important to you today? And then let's work around that, because there's always something we can do. And then once they see that works, then it's like, okay, would you like to try this? So yeah, I mean, absolutely. There's some that just want to jump in all the way, and you got to say, okay, here's a lot of great ideas. We have to scale that down. Let's pick 2 and let's make that our focus for this quarter. Then next quarter. So then you build them out a whole marketing plan with different focuses of
I
it.
see.
So
I
yeah,
see.
I love to just kind of come up with like a ton of ideas too, because I don't know if you can tell, but I get a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
But I love to come up with a ton of ideas and then kind of say, okay, here's some of my favorites, but what resonates with you? What would you like me to build on? And then I'll take those out and build upon them.
Have you experimented with helping out brands that are non-restaurant, other hospitality brands or other franchise brands?
Yes. So in kind of the skincare line, we did some stuff with them. Just finished a brand. Probably shouldn't say the name yet because it's not out yet, but it's coming. And it was, yeah, definitely in that space.
Would the same lessons apply?
Yeah, I don't even think the difference between food and it goes. And I wrap myself around it all the way. I did one for, blanket on the name of it, but it's medical foods.
Okay. Medical foods.
So medical foods is a grade that it's approved by the FDA. So it's not like supplements because you do have this FDA approval.
I see. I see. And so you took that brand and what did you do with them?
Did podcasts, did a whole web redesign for them, events. So they were very focused on doing the different events. So created all of the materials for the shows and the events and things like that.
Very cool. What would you say are some of the up and coming, like the new age of marketing? You brought up the social media, good photos. Are there other up and coming marketing strategies that you've seen that have been exploding in popularity and that you would advise operators to take a look at?
So you see it and you don't always know it, but it's like the fusion of food. So when you think of the Gen Zs, they grew up with a computer and they grew up going to China and Japan and Malays and Belize and all these places where they see the food with their eyes, or they're on TikTok and they're seeing it all. So nowadays chefs have to be a little bit more forward in the fusion of food and becoming creative. It can't just be Italian, or it can't just be, you're getting like the burrito tacos, or you're getting ramen places making tacos, or just fusing the food. So there's a huge trend towards that. Plus the other thing is, back in the 70s or 80s, you went out to dinner, you just went out to dinner. It was about eating. Now you go out to dinner, it's about the experience. What is that experience? You cannot just have good food. I mean, there's a couple of dives that you'll go to, but then you call them the dives. So that's tricky. That's okay. But people want to be entertained more. They want to feel good. We have to pay more for our food now. So you expect for it. So that has to be at the forefront. There's also going to be this whole, like, everybody has their phones. So you want to create like Instagrammable moments, because then that's free marketing for you. So creating those moments versus just like, starts with a pretty plate with colors and foods. But what other things can you do? So like for Dink and Dine, we're doing this thing where we want to have like whatever the chef's creating, kind of some behind the scenes things, and then have those like maybe out on screens where, people can, a lot of that digital interaction.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we'll be speaking to one of the former CEOs of Shake Shack, and they had a really cool concept at the beginning where they had a camera of the line so customers can see if it was worth it for them to wait in line. Because usually the lines were like an hour long, looping around the block. But one idea I have is maybe have camera or something, or maybe just like spotlight moments of the chef cooking so they can actually see how the food is prepared. And then another point there is I'm also seeing that customers, guests, really do care who's actually preparing the food and the story behind the restaurant. One of the reasons I started this podcast is because everywhere you see on TikTok, on Instagram, you have this content creator come in and they order food and then they go behind the scenes and actually talk to the owner and get to know them. And I do believe that for the modern operator, they need to put this themselves out there. We've kind of moved away from this era of celebrity chefs, and there's only a couple people that were able to dominate a market using their name and their recognition. But now the everyday mom and pop pizzeria can have a really cool owner working behind the scenes that gets publicity and can blow up. So I think that's also important too.
Yep. Guy Fieri. I mean, that's what he was going in and just seeing the mom and pops and going behind the scenes with them. And people absolutely love that. They really love to see the story. In fact, that was one of the things I pushed Tom Holt, the owner of our Bain Cafe, with back in the day, of telling his story. So I did a whole story, put it up in the restaurant. And I believe still to this day that he still puts things up. Yeah. At least if not, they're still in the first 20. I have to ask my daughter, does he still use the storyboards? But usually when I go in, I'm always like, oh, I did that. I did that. And she's like, yeah, we didn't really change much.
Yeah. I love it. I always ask my guests, who is someone in the industry that you take inspiration from? Who inspires you?
Gosh, there's a lot of people.
It's always a tough question.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like Never Eat Alone, Danny Meyer, definitely, and his whole story. Guy Fieri inspires me because he's found a new way too. And, I just saw, where was I? I think it was in the airport when I was in Arizona, and it says it's coming.
It's coming.
His whole restaurant. He's got his own restaurant. Like, of course, why not?
Right. No, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. And then down in Las Vegas and stuff like that.
In Las Vegas, he has a bunch too. And he also has a fast casual restaurant called Chicken Guy. And they just recently started franchising. And I met one of the franchisees. It's amazing what he was able to do.
Yeah, he inspires me because he found a different way of doing something. And I love that. And it's like marketing at its best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's also a good guy. I heard him speak once, and he's a good family guy. And I don't know, he told the story of his sister and being sick, and I don't know. Anyways, he's a good guy. So he inspired me too.
Last question here. You guys have some exciting things coming up with Dink and Dine. My audience just had Monica on the show, and she told us a little bit about what they're working on. What are you most excited about this concept? And I don't know, maybe tease us a little bit what's to come.
I'm so excited of the fusion of food and entertainment. I, for one, love pickleball. To me, Dink and Dine has everything. It's bringing people together. I mean, what better way to spend your day than to go with people you love, get a little bit of exercise, and then celebrate over great food. What I especially love about it is it's not just food, like let's do pickleball and let's throw some food in there. These are like chefs, we're restaurant people, all restaurant people that are putting this together and have a love for pickleball. So it's two of my very favorite things. The only thing that I don't like about being this busy is that I don't get to play pickleball as much. Yeah. But it doesn't give me a reason to. I have to get back out. Yeah. So there's a lot of exciting, fun things. And I love parties and entertainment and all of that. And all of that is in this park. So we've got amazing venues. Could do a wedding there. There's 2 pickleball courts on one side that are removable. So it could be a complete dance floor. And then it's got the event rooms over there. And then the great food, like everything is here. And then the other thing is I absolutely love baseball, Arizona baseball. There you go. And so my son, we went to Arizona all the time for all the games and the different things. And the Cub Stadium is right there. So that makes my job just so much fun to be able to go to the Cub Stadium and say, hey, look, we got a great place for spring training, for your events and for your things. And just being right next to the baseball park is amazing too.
Well, I better get an invite, and I'm willing to make the drive.
Right? Oh, you're definitely going to get an invite. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Christi. There was a tons and tons of gold nuggets in this episode that I think I'm very happy that you joined, because I don't get a chance to talk to someone like you. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us your wisdom and experience. And for anyone that's watching that needs help from a marketing standpoint, from an IT standpoint, you got to give Christi a shot. So thank you so much
Daniel,
for
thank
joining
you
the show.
so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And this was fun.
My pleasure. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too.